Sorry? Okay, yeah, that's fine. We're not poor anymore after 50 years. Let's agree that we are a rich country that has been looted by a few people. So you have a small group of people who are extremely rich and many who are poor. So I'll disagree when we say that we are a poor country. That may have been the case in 1963. It is definitely not the case now. When I came back from exile in 2008, I spent 1.5 years traveling around the country, listening to people. I spent a lot of time in the Rift Valley, parts of Central Province, and one of the things that struck me was I thought people would be telling me about the land problems, issues to do with resources, resource allocation, what politicians were doing or not doing. But the one consistent narrative that wananchi were giving to me on the ground was this thing, they were calling it tumedharauliwa. And I heard it most clearly in Rift Valley, also in Coast. In Lamu, I sat with some ladies in an old fort there, a beautiful fort, who reminded me that because I originally come from central Kenya, they told me, you know, you people were still in Cameroon or in the Congo when we in Lamu had an empire here. And that is how old we are. In the Rift Valley, the elders told me, the Rift Valley alone has got enough land for all the people of Kenya. So don't be cheated that we are fighting over land. We are fighting because politicians have whipped up emotions around the allocation of resources and are causing tribal divisions amongst us. And tunasikia tumedharauliwa, and that has caused this animus that is causing us to fight. It takes me back when I think of those sort of fundamental losses of dignity that we as Africans, and I'm not talking as whether we are Kikuyus, Luos, Swahilis, etc., just as Africans. If we think of the Imperial British East Africa Company that we used to study in our history books, and if you look at the Royal Charter that created them, because one of the key elements of the charter that has come out of the Kenya to Itakayo movement is to end impunity. And if you look at the charter of the Imperial British East Africa Company, its most important element was that a group of businessmen could come from England, come to this territory, they could enter into treaties, they could take labor, they could charge people customs, they could administer the territory, they could administer punishments, but most importantly, they had immunity from prosecution as British subjects. So for me, I take this dudu ya impunity imekuwa na sisi since the period before independence, and we've never really done much to extricate it from our body politic. It causes me to ask the question, if that hasn't changed, what is Kenya today? It was invented by that Imperial British East Africa Company, then we fought for independence, we gained independence, but the behavior of those who took over after independence was not that different from the extractors who were there before, which was mainly to extract with impunity. And I would like to argue, and perhaps put it to you, that we need to find ourselves. And I'm excited when I see all the red in the room, because I'm seeing red in South Africa amongst young people as well. I'm seeing it in Uganda amongst young people as well. I'm seeing it in Congo, I'm seeing it in Togo, and there is something happening across the continent which I would like to think is a positive change as people begin to feel that we need to change this old order that has kept us backward for so long. certain big lies, which I hope the Kenya Tuitakayo movement can tackle. And I've heard some of the members of the movement touching on them, but I think are essential to our own dignity as human beings and as Africans. Number one, in Kenya's case, and this is something which we're already trying to deal with in our own sort of bureaucratic way. First of all, at independence, there was this agreement amongst leaders that the colonial borders that we inherited shall not be changed. They were inviolable. As a movement that is committed to a radical change in this country, we can agree that we need to do away with that. We can do away with these borders. We don't need them. If you go to the border of just down here in Namanga, the Maasais who go across the border don't use passport and IDs to cross. So this inviolability of our borders. In Kenya's case, the principle of willing buyer, willing seller of land that was implemented by the first Kenyatta government and has held up to now needs to be questioned. And its fruits, the fruits that principle has borne and the inequalities that are still there up to this day, we need to be courageous enough to question. Thirdly, and finally, you've heard of the Degoa Commission report of 1972, which made it legal for civil servants to go into business with government. So I could form a company and sell eggs to, I'm a permanent secretary, but I can form a company and sell eggs to my own ministry. And this legalized conflict of interest and introduced the corruption which we are now being taxed to pay for. And I think that, again, this is something that we should challenge in the most determined way possible. I sometimes feel that our constitution-making process has been a brave attempt by ordinary 190 to manage a corrupt elite, trying to stay one step ahead of them.